Folks, this short presentation is going to explain the fallacy known as appeal to ignorance, also known as argumentum ad ignorantium. You know, it comes from the Latin. It's a very old idea. This is one that students frequently mess up, and this is why I'm going to take my time talking through it and reiterating things. Appeal to ignorance doesn't occur when someone is ignorant about something. It's a very particular argumentative fallacy pattern. It goes something like this. This occurs when an arguer contends that her position, or his if you prefer, is perfectly legitimate because the opposition hasn't refuted her position. I'll repeat it. Appeal to ignorance occurs when an arguer contends that her position is a perfectly legitimate one because the opposition hasn't refuted her position. A long-time informal logical fallacy textbook, which is really quite a good book. I'm not getting any money for this pitch either. It's called Critical Thinking by Moore and Parker. They prefer not to use the language of appeal to ignorance. I think it's partly because it does sometimes confuse students. What Moore and Parker call it, they call it misplacement of the burden of proof. Now, the reason why I think they prefer to call it that is because that's exactly what happens in an appeal to ignorance. What the person does is they say, well, I don't need to prove my position. It is your job, my opponents, to refute my position. Bullcrap. If you're going to take a position on something, you're taking that position buys you what? You've got the burden of proof. If you're going to say abortion is the killing of children, it's your job to explain that position and defend that position. It's not fair game for someone else to say, well, the pro-choice side hasn't refuted my argument. If you make an argument, it's your job to take up the burden of proof. Now, I'll give a textbook example. It says, all too frequently heard in intro to philosophy class. And by the way, this is true. That's part of why I like the example. Student says, I am perfectly rational in my believing in God. Why? Because the atheists have been unable to prove the existence of God. Well, guess what? If you're asking for proof, then you're the one with the burden of proof. It is not fair logical game to say, well, you have to disprove my position. Because if you take a stance, you are the one with the burden of proof, not the other guy. And this is why Moore and Parker prefer to explain appeal to ignorance as misplacement of the burden. In a way, folks, appeal to ignorance argues from a lack of evidence. Not evidence, but from a lack of evidence. It says, no, I'm not going to defend my position. They, of course, don't come out and say that. But the person who appeals to ignorance does nothing to defend her position. Instead, she says, well, how about you, my opponent? You show me why I'm wrong. Well, no. You make a claim. you've got the burden of arguing for why your position is rational. Thank you.